Is this on? You want to? Okay. So, hello and welcome. My name is Drew Carr. I'm a team leader for the Northside, Westside Joint Neighborhood Council, and I'm glad you're all here. And we're going to try to move this meeting along quickly. So I know probably a lot of you are here to hear about the Scott Street closure starting on July 1st. And but there are some other things on the agenda that we want to get done. I know a lot of you have been to these meetings on a regular basis. A lot of you may have never come to a council meeting, but if you live in the North Side or the West Side, you are part of this council. And if you own a business, you're also part of the council. And so there's certain things about the council that you may not know if you've never been to a meeting. One is that we meet generally around 4 times a year. We meet for all kinds of reasons, and anyone can bring an issue to this council and be part of the agenda if you have a concern or if you have an issue that you want to bring about. So we really encourage you to stay involved and come to the meetings as often as you can. And the best way to get to information about the meetings and about what's going on is to be in our sign-up list. And especially if you have an email, we do not send out a lot of emails, I promise you, but you will certainly get announcements about these meetings and about important things going on, such as the Scott Street closure. And having said that, the other part of the council is that we have a leadership team. And in our bylaws, it essentially says we can have up to 14 people on the leadership team. And we've had several people resign from the leadership team over the last few months. So our first item on the agenda is to have leadership team elections. Just so you know, if you live in the neighborhood, you have a vote on this, and you also can be a part of the leadership team. Basically, what the leadership team in terms of time commitment, it's not a huge time commitment, but it's definitely somewhat of a commitment. We have a meeting once a month, and we have projects and committees that we regularly work on. For instance, right now we're working on a project on the north side. There's a pocket park that's been proposed, and we have a neighborhood grant to work on that right next to the overpass. And we're going to talk about the Northside bike ped overpass in just a few minutes. So if you have an interest, if you have some things that you've always wanted to work on in the neighborhood but not knowing how, this is a great way to do it. And being on the leadership team can be part of that. So you can nominate yourself, or you can be nominated by someone else. And I freely admit I nominated myself and was voted in unanimously by the council. So please, if you feel like you have the energy and a bit of time every month, not a lot, but a bit, please nominate yourself. Let's get you on that team, and let's start doing some things for the community. I want to introduce, we have someone in the West Side who is up until very recently our neighborhood liaison for the city of Missoula. And Lynette Diaz lives on the West Side, and I'm actually nominating her tonight to be on the leadership team. It's now that she's off. We will definitely have her nominated, as I'm nominating her now as a member of the council. And Lynette's going to do our elections for us, even though she's maybe a conflict of interest, but we'll go for it.
Okay. My name's Lynette Diaz, and I wrote up a little just kind of what the duties that we do. We meet once a month as a leadership team to talk about ongoing projects. It's usually like an hour. We try to do it on a reoccurring monthly basis, so it's easy to remember and have it on your calendar. We also, then the neighborhood meetings are 4 times a year, so that we can keep the neighborhood informed of what's going on, like the Scott Street that we're going to talk about tonight. We report to City Council anything that's pertinent. A lot of times City Council's here. We have a few reps that I see in the audience. We record the meeting minutes and submit those to the city clerk for filing for the records of the neighborhood. We set the meeting agendas for this, so we've invited the people here to speak. We set the agenda, those kinds of things. Plan the meetings, get the food, and if you haven't had food and you're hungry, please help yourself. Organize neighborhood projects. The Lowell school project, the garden, got support from the Northside, Westside Neighborhood Council to go in front of the school. We have the other project on the Northside overpass. We're going to turn in kind of a vacant area into a pocket park. So that's kind of one of the things we're working on. And then we manage money. The city of Missoula gives us, between the two neighborhoods, we get $1,600 a year to do mailings, to buy food, to actually do the kind of things that we need to get people to these meetings. So besides myself nominating, or I guess Drew nominated me, is there anybody else that would like to be on the leadership team and join Drew and I? And Grace, are you staying on?
I'm staying on.
Okay, so Grace is over here, and she's part of the leadership team as well. Anybody else interested? We'll have 3 at this point, but we can have up to 14, although that's really huge. So it's ideal to have 5 to 7. Anybody else interested? Okay. So the one thing we do need to do is to vote in the slate of Drew and I and Grace so that we can continue to do these meetings and hold these. Yes? You want to help us? Okay, and what's your name? Kate. Okay. And Kate, just stop by after the meeting and talk to us and we'll give you the information. Cool. So we've got... Oh, right. Are you guys still on it too? Okay. So we've got... Cool. And we've got Kate. Excellent. All right. So Eric, can you raise your hand? Sorry about that, you guys. I wasn't sure because I forgot I wasn't at that last meeting. Debbie? Okay. And then we got Grace and Drew and then Kate and I. So those would be the people. As a neighborhood council, you get to vote your leadership representatives in, which means that you want us to make sure you get this information. So I just need a motion from somebody in the neighborhood to move the slate of nominees. Okay, Kate moves. All right. And if you're in favor of that slate for the leadership team, say aye.
Aye.
That's okay. Anybody opposed? All right, excellent. So the next thing on the agenda that we're going to talk about really quick is the Northside overpass. One of the things that ties into this with the Scott Street Bridge is that the Northside overpass is going to get all the traffic of the bicycles and pedestrians that would typically bike over Scott Street to come to the Westside Park usually from the north side. And it's in a state of disrepair as far as the graffiti goes. And so we wanted to talk to you about the maintenance of that bridge. And I'm going to invite Bob Oakes up really quickly to discuss that bridge and the maintenance issues and any of his concerns that he might have and how he might need our help.
Hi, as Lynette said, it's going to be particularly difficult, I think, for a lot of kids this summer to access Westside Park and playground and the spray deck and that, because their access is going to be cut off. And is there anybody from MRL here tonight? I would suspect that perhaps MRL could start seeing some more problems with people walking across the tracks, kind of where the Bitterroot Spur comes in too. So I think it's a good time to concentrate some effort into getting the Northside pedestrian overpass kind of spruced up and ready to go for a heavy summer's worth of use. Right now it's got quite a bit of graffiti on it, and that is John Williams still here? We'll saw him pop in, maybe there he is. John Williams, would you raise your hand? Don't run away. John's over near the door, hiding. John's kind of been the spearhead for graffiti cleanup over at the bridge, and has been for 10 years. So So, and I've helped John when I can. John Couch has helped a lot, and some other neighbors around, but John Williams has really been the driving force behind that, and I know that he and I would like to get some more folks out there who might be interested in helping clean up. Another issue that comes up often is the Parks Department has a pressure washer, and they clean it up pretty good when they do it, but they don't do it very often. And I think maybe I just talked to some folks at Parks this week, and they don't have a regular schedule for cleaning it, and they kind of base their cleaning schedule on what they hear from the neighborhood. So right now there's like an entire winter's full of pigeon droppings in all the corners, and it's pretty messy, and kids have to go through it. So it would be nice to get that cleaned up. I would like volunteers to get together, first of all, even if you're not able to help with the actual cleanup or painting over graffiti, talk about the best way to do it. And we've kind of debated for years about strategies and how best to do it. One of the problems that I think is that when the bridge was first built, that porous block wasn't sealed very well. And whenever paint gets on it, it absorbs right in. And we've spent hours out there with wire brushes and spray bottles of acetone trying to get it off, and it usually leaves ghost graffiti, and it's not very pleasant to go through to breathe in all those fumes. So one of the things I'd like to talk about is try to get a consensus from the neighborhood that maybe the block on the inside that continually gets repainted with graffiti gets painted with a red paint that we can go over it easily to paint out graffiti. And there is gray paint that we've been using. And somebody else that hasn't been part of our crew has come up and painted gray paint on the red block that sort of makes it even look worse in a way. So we'd kind of like to come up with a consensus of what the best way is to approach maintaining it in the future. And I think if we had a group of people that could share the task, like maybe one time get together with a bunch of people and do a major cleanup, and then just have a few volunteers that would come and take the schedule throughout the summer and come on Saturday and clean it up. We will have a key from the Parks Department to one of the rooms to the room in the North Tower that's locked now, so it'll be a convenient place to keep supplies. So it should be fairly easy once we get a handle on it. Another issue that comes up that we need, I think, to talk to the police department about is the number of people who loiter on the bridge and kind of go up there and park up on the highest level and drink for periods throughout the day. And I don't personally find those people threatening, but I'm thinking about, Jerry, who I work with, his wife called the other day and said Alice, who's 8 years old, wanted to ride her bike to gymnastics from the north side, wanted to go over the bridge, and I could see the conflict across his face, like, do I let her go up across the bridge alone? And then they did ultimately, but there was a lot of talking to her first about don't talk to strangers, even if they have a puppy, just be careful, be aware. And I don't want to come down on homeless people, but I would suggest to you all that the rights that Alice has to be able to go across that bridge without any kind of fear trumps the rights of the guys who want to sit up there and drink. So I think maybe we could ask the police department for some more, maybe bicycle cop patrols across it, or whatever. We've talked in the past about maybe having some kind of security cameras up there, but that idea hasn't flown yet. And then a final thing that probably would be the most difficult of all, but it's still an interest of mine, is to explore what it would take, and if it's possible, to get the elevators in operation again on the bridge. They've been shut down for a long time. And there's various reasons that are explicable for why, and understandable for why they were shut down, but I think there might be a solution out there too as well. So what I'd like to do is pass around a sign-up sheet, and if you put your name on it, and your email, or your phone, I will get a hold of you all and we can get together and kind of come up with a battle plan for how to work down the bridge over the summer. Thanks a lot.
Bob, I'm going to show you quick thoughts because I forget them later. One is as far as the Parks Department, a letter we drafted and sent from the leadership team to the Parks Department saying that neighbors have an interest in seeing a power wash before the summer.
I think that's a great idea, and we can. That's one of the things we can talk about when we get together and have a strategy meeting. But if whether or not you're able to be on it, I will keep that idea in the forefront. Another thought is the cleaning and the paint and the brushes all come at a cost, and we don't really have a budget anywhere to handle that, so we should explore where we can get money for it, even if it's fundraising on our own. Somebody, was it you, Grace? I can't remember. One of the people I corresponded with said maybe we could do a thing out there where we do the first major cleanup and have a thing like fire department does with the booth where mustard dystrophy, but just have folks who cross the bridge, can you throw some change in here to help with our costs to keep it clean. So.
And another quick thought I have on it is, in a way, it seems like we're fighting a losing battle on the graffiti, and we thought about doing something different in the areas where people graffiti, like a mural that maybe wouldn't get painted over, or chalkboard.
You know, we did that first night project with the tiles on it, and that really, yeah, she wanted to know if there was something we could do that's more of an art project where some of the graffiti goes that people might stay away from. And the first night tiles that are on both of the towers, only one's been graffitied, and that was only once, and it was sort of by accident. It was somebody that was sloppy spray painter, and we were able to clean it up. But that's possible. Another idea might be to have a graffiti wall in Pocket Park. So it's an okay place to do it, and there are other places that aren't okay. I don't know what works. I might take a little research to find out what works in other places. And another thing I've heard in the past, I'm probably not a little bit. Another thing I've heard in the past is some people say, well, what's wrong with graffiti? I've seen some really cool graffiti on railroad cars and so on, and it's really kind of an artistic expression. And if you want to challenge that theory, you should take a walk across the pedestrian overpass. And if you think that penises are, you know, like artistic expression, maybe they are in some cases, but probably not the way they're on the bridge. And if you're going to allow graffiti on the bridge, we need to get some kind of school for graffitiists here so that they can learn that there is a better way to do it than
All right, thanks, Bob. If you're interested in helping out, that's one of the projects that you can do besides being on the leadership team if you want to be more engaged in helping the neighborhood. So sign up. Next on our agenda is the Scott Street overpass, which most of you are most concerned about. So I'm going to just kind of give you a brief background of where we're at, and then I'll introduce who's here, they're gonna, and what they're going to talk about, and then your opportunity to be able to ask questions. So kind of the background is that the bridge was scheduled, yes. Oh, are you Lisa? Okay, I'm sorry. Let me bring Lisa up really quick. What's that? Right, come on up, Lisa. Sorry, Lisa wants to do one quick thing.
I know after the big thing, everybody's going to start wandering, and I wanted to say a big Lowell School thank you from all of the kids and the staff for our beautiful garden. I know the other Lisa Biscayewicz from our Missoula flagship program, came to one of these meetings during the winter and asked for volunteers, and 60 people signed up from this room. And as you can see from the side of our building, the garden's there, and it was the most amazing weekend, and the kids love it. They're in there all the time. So we wanted to come and say thank you for anyone who did anything to help make that happen. And our garden coordinator, if you would like to be contacted to be a part of it over the summer, because it's a community garden. So if you want to come pick peas and you want to know when that's going to happen, there is a community bulletin board going up. And if you would like an email or contact, she made this clipboard to leave for you to sign up, and she will let you know when things are happening then that you might be interested in. So I'm going to leave that on the table for people just to sign up for. And just thank you from all of the kids.
Okay, sorry that I forgot that part. So the Scott Street Bridge, the history. Public Works and from the City of Missoula Public Works Department, the Montana Department of Transportation, the Police Department, the Fire Department, and all those kind of entities came to our neighborhood meeting last fall and talked to us about the closure of the Scott Street Bridge for July of 2010. And that was the anticipated plan, was to close the bridge during that and for a 4-month period so that they could redeck the bridge. It needs redecked, it is a safety issue. And we were like, great, thanks for approaching us so quickly and letting us know way in advance. And everybody said that we would help them get the word out. With the stimulus funds that came through from the Obama administration, that project was one of the shovel-ready projects that was the quote, shovel-ready. And so it was actually funded to have stimulus money. And in order for it to get that stimulus money, it has to happen this year. So that's why it's been moved up, and many of you haven't heard about it. The stimulus funds just came through early spring, and we've been working. Drew has been kind of the lone person on the leadership team for a while, and so we've been trying to get this going. So we apologize for being so late as well, and only a month out. The other history is that the City Council has passed 2 different, I'm not sure if they were ordinances or resolutions, probably resolutions, for 24-hour construction given limitations, as well as lifting of the noise ordinance during certain periods also has quite a few limitations. And so I'm going to invite our speakers up. They're going to talk about the construction project. It's supposed to start July 1st and go through October. They're going to talk about those limitations that I just mentioned. They're going to talk about the traffic plan. We also got Mountain Line here to kind of discuss their bus route and how the bus is free for kids in the summer, so if kids are trying to get to the Westside from the Northside, they're here to kind of talk about how the bus system works and that kind of thing. The fire department's here for if you're worried about emergency services and access. So I'm going to invite them up and we'll introduce them. So anybody speaking about this project, come on up. And then I'll introduce you. We have MCAT and KPAX here tonight just to get the news on this Scott Street Bridge. The microphones are here. So the speakers, if you guys would talk into this area. And then also, when people ask a question, if you would want to repeat it and then answer it, that would be useful for up here. Okay, so is this
Dean Jones.
Dean Jones, MDT? Okay, so this is Dean Jones with Montana Department of Transportation. This is Greg Wood with the Public Works Office, City of Missoula. Jeff, right? Jeff Logan is with the Fire Department. Ray Hoff, where'd you go? Ray Hoff right in front of me with Mountain Line. I see Jack Stuckey. Are you here what's that? Oh, I'm sorry, Wayne Gravatt. Are you here for the city or no? Okay, just observing. All right, and we also have city council folks here. We've got Pam Walzer. Do you want to raise your hand? So we have your representatives here to hear your concerns tonight. We've got Dave Strohmeyer up here. Jason Weiner is over here, and we got John Hendrickson up here. We also have the police department who's come for the traffic plan and questions. So hopefully we have everybody here that you want to ask questions of. So I'll let you get started. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much for coming. Obviously, we're aware of a lot of your concerns and know that it's going to impact you all. It's going to impact a lot of the communities. I'd like to speak a little bit about why we're doing it, the project in itself. So in the course of getting involved with this, I realize that some people don't even really know the scope of the project. Essentially, the bridge, it was built in '79, so it's 30 years old, and it has some deterioration in the surface. And if you think about a leaky roof, if you have leaks in your roof, eventually, you have drywall problems, you're not replacing your roof, it's a much bigger, longer, more expensive project. So we have a responsibility to get out there and correct the problem. The scope of the work is in the center two spans above the steel girders. We're taking the complete decking, the decking all the way down to the steel. MDT, who will be administering the construction of this project, they'll look at the steel, make sure that it's all retaining its integrity. And then on the other two spans on either side of that, they're going to do an overlay. Right now there's some delamination, and they will address that with resurfacing with a concrete latex. Lynette mentioned the schedule, which would be, they're in the process of bidding it. They would start in early to mid-July, and it would go through October. We did come to some neighborhood council meetings, and we've talked to people about doing it in one season versus two season, and for a number of reasons, it made a lot of sense to do it in one season and get it over with instead of protracting it over multiple seasons. So that's why we're doing it and what we're doing. The noise ordinance that Lynette mentioned, we did go before council to get some revisions to the noise ordinance. And primarily the reason I want to stress that the reasoning for that isn't because MDT wants their contractor to work around the clock. In fact, a lot of the work, what they consider to be the heavy lifting and the very noisy stuff, the demolition, needs to be done in the day when it's safe for workers. But there are some activities that need to be done at night with cooler temperatures. Some of the concrete pouring will need to be done, maybe started later in the day and go through the night. So in an effort to support that schedule, we went before City Council. We've talked, the specific ordinance revisions to the ordinance were to allow the standard noise ordinance allows for work between 6 and 10 p.m. So we're allowing an additional 14 nights from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. And there are no more than 3 consecutive nights. So, it wasn't any magic number. It was, we know we have to do some work at night. We think we get 14 days, ought to be able to get it done. If we have several pours and they, happen to go end to end on several nights, we'll minimize it. These were addressing some of the concerns that were raised in Public Works Committee and by council. And the other thing is that any work occurring at night needs to, they need to notify people 48 hours in advance. And I'm going to finish what I have to say, but Dean is here. He can at least answer some questions about what that notification process is. I know my experience with projects that are highly impactful, you're going to get the calls, it's going to impact people, but the more you do to communicate when it's going to happen, the easier it is for everybody. So they do have requirements in their specifications that call for them to notify adjacent properties, and Dean can speak to that. We know that we've done some traffic control plans. When I'm done, I'll leave some traffic control plans up here that we hope to, get out so people understand. Essentially, we're trying to get cars to go to the east and get to Orange Street. There were some improvements done at Orange Street and North 5th last summer in anticipation of this. Hopefully there's an extra turn lane added We're hoping that alleviates some problems. There's also a series of right-hand turns that's created that we hope will eliminate some problems. Traffic control plans are always a dynamic process. We put them in place. We do the best we can to address the problems we think we're going to encounter, and there's always adjustments that we can make on the ground. There's always valuable input that we get from the people that drive it every day. Wouldn't it make sense to do this? And we have the people that we can get out there and monitor and do what we can to minimize the impact. Again, we don't want to by any means overlook the fact that there's going to be impact. It's going to be there. We're sensitive to the neighborhood detours. To the extent we can patrol for speed limits and do some things. I think the toughest part of this whole thing is going to be pedestrian traffic, which is going to be diverted down to the overpass. And really with the rail yard is right here. It's one of the widest areas of the transfer. It's a transfer station. A lot of the trains that are operated here are done remotely. They're not, so they don't have people there with eyes to view people. So, we're all going to have to work together. We have been talking to the school district, Mountain Line, Allied Waste, Montana Rail Link, and that communication. Part of what Lynette was saying about the stimulus package is it's really accelerated the need to do that, and we're glad you're here tonight to listen, and we do care and we do listen, and with that said, I really would just turn it over maybe to Dean to touch a few minutes on what their notification process is. And then we can turn it over to questions and answers. And we do have fire and police here to talk about, or to help answer questions as well.
Basically, the notification before they start work to businesses and the affected residents will be a written summary of the intended operations. Basically, the bridge is going to be closed. So about all the things I'm going to tell you is when the different types of work are going to take place. And then after that, once they get started, there'll be a 24 to 72 hour notice to businesses. We're doing a little bit of curb and gutter sidewalk work on two of the corners. We're doing some work underneath the bridge, some paving, some striping. So anything that we think or the contractor thinks is going to affect your house or your business or anything in the immediate area, they're required to give you 24 to 72 hours notice.
Is the sidewalk going to go back in the same configuration?
Underneath the bridge? Or
No, over the bridge.
Yeah.
Same size
Yeah.
and one sidewalk.
Yeah.
When you say written notification, how is that going to be distributed?
You go door to door and knock on doors.
Actually handing it in the immediate vicinity?
Yeah.
And that's prior to the work starting in total as well as the 24 to
Yeah.
72?
Right now, the contract's getting let June 11th. And people in Helena take, I think it's a week and a half to 2 weeks to review all the contract documents. Once everything they find out is okay, then they'll award the contract. And at that point, we notify the contractor. Give us your schedule, give us your summary, and get it out to the people. So before they start work.
What's the immediate area? Like how many feet away from the bridge, 300?
That's something that'll probably we'll try something, and if I get phone calls,
So there's no area per se, right?
no. It just says affected businesses and residents, so.
Actually, you're going to do a lane by lane, one lane open, south lane, and the other hand.
I know that's been talked about. I'm not a bridge engineer or designer. I don't know the specifics, but I've been told, well, for one reason, when we do, like, if we were able to do half at a time, the one half of the sidewalk, the 300 feet in the middle, that's completely gone. The deck's gone. And also, I think on those steel girders, they're made with a bow in them to deflect, so they have to be loaded at a certain way so they deflect the same amount. So if you only built half at a time, you couldn't connect. And there may be more reasons than that.
Those are Pam.
Just really quick, we handed out the traffic plan so that you can see that if you have any questions. I also, I'm gonna get some of the bus schedules from Ray, and if anybody wants to particularly look at that, I just wanted to mention on the bus schedules that it's the number 3 that comes through the north side, for those of you who might not be aware. And it comes down and it drops you off at the transfer center, where you can then pick up the number 2 to come to the west side, park, and back to Lowell School and that kind of thing. It might be one of the options for kids if they're in the lunch program or one of the school programs during the summer, or if they want to come to the splash deck and you don't want them to bike that far, but you want them to be able to go over there. The one thing is that you want to be aware that the number 3 doesn't always meet up with the number 2. And so sometimes there's a 15-minute wait for the number 2 to show up, and sometimes there's a 45-minute wait for the number 2 to show up. So you probably want to make sure that they don't have to wait 45 minutes downtown. Other times it matches up, so they can actually just get off the 3, get on the 2, and come over here. So just want to make people aware of that. If you'll raise your hand if you want to see one of these, if you think that children might be short or you might use the bus. Yeah, they will not open that splash pool. It's not up to code, the health standards placed by the federal government, so they're not allowed to open that. They can't have standing water any longer, and the drains don't work very well, so the water is standing. It doesn't pass the specs that it's supposed to pass, so it.
Anybody else specifically?
Anybody else need a map?
I have a question about Cemetery Road. Is that road around the back going to remain open to car traffic? Or is that just truck traffic? And I ask that because so many people, they take off of Reserve and come down Scott Street now to get to Broadway. At 5 o'clock at night, it's very difficult to get across Scott Street Bridge because of the traffic coming from Reserve around the back. So I'm wondering if that traffic's going to go through the neighborhood then on the north side trying to access Orange Street.
Well, the one answer is it's shown as a truck route. It will be open. Yeah, yes. I mean, we just want to get primary truck. You know, you want to try to. The main thing about the truck route is trying to get the trucks from going through the neighborhoods.
So I'm just saying that probably early on you should be aware that in the afternoon, many cars, instead of going down Reserve to get on Broadway, they take that back road, and it's very difficult to get across. So that traffic's going to be coming through the north side now and having to get on Orange Street. So just some consideration for it's almost impossible to get in and out of the north side now in the heavy traffic hours, particularly in the morning when people are coming off the interstate at Orange Street.
You can't get out there.
You just avoid it with as much as you possibly can now. So if all that traffic that's dumping off Reserve stays on that road, I'm just thinking you may want to plan ahead for that traffic.
Has there been any thoughts of putting a temporary actual traffic light on Orange Street at that interchange so that people
So you can actually get out.
Because that's not going to be possible. The turning lane makes it absolutely impossible to get out, is what happens. Because if you're sitting there trying to get out, the traffic that's heading for the interstate never has to stop.
Oftentimes now, people just pick the newest truck that looks like it has insurance and turn it for.
Yeah, all you gotta do is come sit there 1 or 2 mornings and you'll see exactly what we're talking.
Right. Well, it was discussed. Yes, it was discussed because we anticipate it's going to be difficult, and we're just going to have to work. You know, I know that MDT had some concerns about. I've worked on other projects where it's difficult just to introduce some temporary lights. So that's something we can continue our conversations
Okay,
with
we
them
have
on.
a few questions there. We've got Kate, and then we'll go Red, and then we'll go Bob.
Hi, I'm Katie Barr. I'm on North 3rd Street West, and we have some traffic problems on that street anyway. What's happening? I had 2 questions. First of all, I wondered how you determined how you can control traffic and like, how you made this plan. I was curious if you consulted neighbors and so forth. And secondly, I wondered, I've heard you're going to be detouring some traffic down North 1st Street, and I wondered if you could talk about that and how that's going to work. I think that could potentially be a problem.
One is generally it's done more with traffic engineers than, you know, sitting down, but we do have, you know, city projects that we do, and everyone, you know, like I said, it is a dynamic process. Sometimes you sit down. I think some of the detour in North First, there's a series of right-hand turns to try to, you know, if you couldn't make that left, you go around and make a series of right-hand turns, left-hand turns, I'm sorry.
The one thing you guys might want to consider on North First is that traffic parks on 2 sides of North First, and unless you're going to enforce no parking on one side of North First, you have one-way traffic that's going to be blocking each other in that area, because only one car can get through.
There is a section that's going to be posted no parking.
And it's going to have to be enforced because of the people who live over there.
I've seen that.
Because it's going to be pretty intensive.
We do have posted a section of no parking on North First from Ryman to Grand in anticipation of some of that. You know, like I said, I think.
Right.
They're very dense right there. A lot of people live there. That's
Right.
actually really one of the densest parts of the neighborhood.
So that's going to have to be enforced. I think it's a good idea
Right.
because we need to be able to get through the neighborhood, but I might want high enforcement in that area for a while would be good. Right here?
North First is basically one car passing right now, all the way over to Lowell. I ride that over the end, right? Kettle House is open. And,
Kettle House is supposed to open in the fall, I think.
I live on that second, and even to sometimes trying to get into town on the right-hand drive is almost impossible. You're never going to make a left out of there. And the traffic is so full now during rush hour that if you put any kind of slow down or stop signal, you're going to be backing people up off onto the expressway. And so I suggest through the media somehow anybody coming from the west to go on by and go down to the next exit by Albertson's down that way, or they get off another exit further to the west and come in on Broadway. The more you can do that for people who don't really have to go through that section, the better off they're going to be. And that's just getting the word out.
Right. And that's something we can, you know, hopefully do. Media's here, and we do plan on getting this to a broader audience as well.
Bob?
Has anybody explored the possibility of temporarily reopening Razor Drive? That was closed in the early 90s. The county commissioners closed it when it was part of the county. But it was done over the protest of the city engineering department. The city was, they realized it was an important access route, it was an important route for Cemetery Road
Yeah.
with,
So you can cross the tracks.
and that party
That's a
man.
great idea.
And that was the way that people who lived on the west side would get off the interstate off and at Reserve and come down. And come across Razor Drive and access the neighborhood that way, not have to go over the Scott Street.
I'll ask the question. I think that it has to do with crossing the tracks, but I can ask somebody whether that was looked at or has any potential.
Okay, over here again.
I think if we did something like that, even on North Line, that we had the police there, maybe guide some traffic during the rush hours, that might help a little bit.
The Orange Street's very backed up already. You get people way backed up out to I-90 right now. Any other questions? Okay, we have right here, then we'll do Drew and then Kate.
I just wonder, is there any concerns in terms of air quality during the demolition stage?
I haven't heard any, but I
haven't. I've been involved with quite a few bridge projects, reconstructs like this, and I haven't heard of any problems. There will be saw cutting. There'll be dust from that, but not an overwhelming amount.
Okay, so I live just right at the end of the block from the bridge, so that's what I was wondering if any permits have been issued for variances in the air quality as well for demolition.
I can check on that.
Okay.
I don't know.
A couple of things. First of all, the second or third, I'm really concerned about the Orange Street situation because this whole month I've been watching traffic on Scott Street. All that traffic is now going to be on Orange Street except for a few people who will go down around the Reserve. I just really think, I'm hoping that you'll somehow figure out how to deal with it because it's just going to be backed up in that neighborhood and there's just going to be a huge fog there. The second thing I'm really worried about is and maybe the police department maybe could help us answer this question, but I'm really worried about speed on North 1st Street and North 5th Street. There's going to be a lot more traffic on those two streets now. North 1st, whether you have no parking there or not, it's still a very narrow street. And I'm not sure if you have a plan for those residents and whether they know there's not going to be any parking there because there's not any off-street parking for a lot of those residents. So that needs to be a plan. Where are they going to park? But also just controlling the speed on those two streets. And I've talked to a lot of people, like people who aren't even here tonight, who are really concerned about their kids. There's a lot of kids in that neighborhood who cruise around their bikes and there are a lot of narrow streets. A lot of people aren't going to take North 1st, they'll take North 3rd or 4th. So I'm really, hoping that maybe we can have some traffic slow down, and maybe we can have an increased police presence there to make sure that people are slowing down and watching for kids. There's tons of on-street parking on every street in the north side, and there's a lot of kids darting out of those streets, and anyone that drives those streets knows that. So you don't drive down those streets fast, and you have to be careful, and it's just the way it is. So that's...
Well, I would say child safety is, critical to the project. Overall, this is a safety project in replacing a bridge so that the bridge is safe, and that's long-term, but short-term, we need to do it. And if we need to talk to police about some hot spots or specific areas, we can certainly do that. I know that there's also going to be some traffic calming projects going. I think Phillip Street is scheduled for this summer too. There's going to be a couple things. I think it's going to take us all working together and communicating, and us being responsive to make it work.
We've got Kate, and then red, and then black back here.
Okay, a couple of things. I think good signage is going to be really important because right now on the north side, what often happens is if you don't know your way around, and many people go to the north side and don't know their way around, people drive around really fast, trying to figure out where they're at, and they're prone to not get where they're going anyway. They can't get in a car. So, in front of my house, on 1/3. So, I think good signage is going to be really important. Secondly, I'd just like to really reiterate what we have a problem now on North First, North Second, and North Third. And the thought of having any traffic diverted down North First without some kind of significant thing in place seems really dangerous. I mean, it's seriously, it's a one-car passage. You almost get in a head-on when you go down that street now. And then too, the thought of having a lot of traffic diverted down North Third or North Second with the narrowness of the streets, it just seems very dangerous, particularly with Head Start there, lots of kids in that neighborhood.
It's also the recreation. A lot of people recreate back way on North First to the Rattlesnake. So there's lots of bikes going down there too. It's kind of a little
We
corridor.
also have the viewing at the school there.
Yeah.
Movies.
Right, the outdoor cinema happens starting in July at Borden, at the school on Borden. Okay, we have the red, and then we'll go black.
Follow up on what Drew said, now all the bikes and pads going over Clark
Yeah.
are going to divert down over the towers, so you're increasing the bicycle traffic through that area that we're going to run our cars through, so it's a place you really got to look at.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to say, first of all, thank you very much for doing this project to start. I understand, I think everybody else here understands that what you're doing is going to be for the betterment of our neighborhood. I appreciate that you're coming here and talking to us about it. I appreciate that of all the gentlemen that are here from all the different departments that are willing to work with us. But what I would like to ask everyone that's here right now, who holds the power, who the buck stops at, please give us the commitment that Public Works, you will get it done in 4 months, that we won't be seeing this into next spring or even into this coming winter. That the police department, please, I'm one of those people who has children that crosses Scott Street Bridge every day, especially in the summer. And police department, please, can you be there for us to help protect our children? Because as the other people here have said, the traffic now is dangerous. I mean, there's near misses every day over there. And it's first, second, third, it's fifth, it's Stoddard, it's Cooley, it's everything. Also, could you please make sure that there will be no truck traffic coming through there? I mean, there has to be severe penalties for any trucks that try and come through there, to circumvent whatever the truck route is going to be to get them to the dump. I couldn't exactly make that on the map on where that truck route is going through. The truck route.
The truck route is, it looks like, and I'll let Greg explain it, but I think there's a detour at Orange, and then can you explain more and with Allied Waste too, Greg?
We talked to Allied Waste about revising their, I don't know whether Hal's here.
And we invited
Hal's over here, maybe he can talk about their trucks, but I think a lot of it's going to be a public education campaign, which
Vehicles, you've got all sorts of big dump trucks that head to the dump, but right now, Scott right now.
Right.
yeah, and again,
And that's where it is. And then what about next fall? What about the Safe Schools program for kids coming over to Lowell School? Are you going to help provide new routes for that? If there's going to be no temporary pedestrian access at all on Scott Street, if nothing can be constructed, no scaffolding, nothing, then obviously most of that pedestrian traffic will have to go to the Northside overpass that we were talking about. Will the police please be there to help police that area so that the homeless people that do congregate there now are not going to be a problem for the children? And then come to the next fall with the Safe Walk to Schools program, will there be police presence there to help make sure that early in the morning that it's going to be safe for them to use? I mean, I'm not saying that you're not trying to help. I'm saying there's
the commitment is there. We can elevate it. We can, get police presence. Like I said, we can be responsive.
What about some temporary speed bumps?
We've discussed some of that, and I think it's something that's being discussed. I know that the temporary speed bumps in themselves are a little bit problematic with the set that we have right now, but I know that we've discussed doing some things. If it's signage, if it's police presence, we're here to commit that. I've seen the contract, what the contractors are bidding on right now, calls for them to be done October 23rd. Part of this, I will throw the caveat there, that part of it is getting rid of the deck to get down to the structure to determine. There's always a little bit of a, once you get there, how much are you into kind of deal. It's kind of like, again, re-roofing, you tear it all off. Do you need the substrate? Well, but the commitment to get it done is there with MDT, managing, their subcontractor once they're on board. Again, I think we're all in this together. We're not, we're here listening now. We're not going away. Our offices are right there. I can leave my cards with you. I would be the first point of contact for the project, and if I don't have the answer, I'll get you the answer. If I need to, involve other departments, we can do that. But we have, from the start, we've involved fire and police, and we've been talking to them, making sure that they're confident with their response times and things like that. So those communications will continue.
Can you address
Yeah.
any of the concerns over the traffic?
I don't really know if I can address much about the traffic. I mean, there's not really much we can do to keep it from being there. We'll try to do our best to get motorcycles out there, especially on the smaller streets where we can't park. Get some motorcycles out there to enforce the traffic laws. I know once school's out, we're going to have 3 bicycle officers. Their assignment, part of their assignment is going to be that Northside pedestrian bridge and keeping that clear. And they're going to hit that real hard this summer. But as far as, like the traffic light or traffic congestion problems, I don't really know of anything we can do to solve that.
Can you enforce the parking restrictions too, like on First?
Yes.
Okay. I know we had Lisa, and then we had Nancy, and then we'll go back over here.
I'd like to let all of you know something that you can do. The community resource officers, which is Rod Swanson for this school, there are budget problems with both the school department and the police force, budget problems everywhere. That is one of the things that is in jeopardy, and our school has already written letters of support to maintain those positions. And if you were to write letters to both the police department and the school board, because they also fund in part, to keep the community resource officers, that is someone who would be able to meet the children on the pedestrian bridge and maybe help with that. And the second thing the community can do is we do have the walking school bus program, which can route the children safely with adult supervision, and you just have adults walking from stop to stop. So you might have 12 or 15 children, but you have 1 or 2 adults with them as they're walking to school. So if you can get involved with those 2 programs, that's something you can do to help keep the kids safe as they're coming to and from Lowell.
You may do that for the school, Lisa, get involved.
Yes.
Suggestion that I know isn't well receptive in school, but it is in most of the communities, and it seems to be working well on my target. But if you put 4-way stops at off the interstate, it lets respectfully everybody take their turn at that intersection. And I would highly recommend that you put up large 4-way stops to let everybody respectfully take their turn at that intersection. And the other thing is on North First, as I'm hearing this, if the city could lease a parking lot of some kind in that area for those people to park on, it would make their ability to be able to follow the parking rules a lot better. If they could just lease a parking lot close by, there's the railroad at the rail yard, so that people had a place to park there for the duration of this activity. It probably would help them meet the law a lot easier.
Yeah, there is a parking lot there, and it says no, parking or you can tow. So if there's a way to do that, that'd be great.
I do know that 4-way stop came up in conversation, and I know that the other thing is this plan doesn't show all the signage. I'm sure that there's going to be a much more elaborate companion sheet to this with, that, and there may be some temporary speed limit postings we need to do or something.
Yeah, I know there's definitely more than that.
Right. So, we will continue to explore that.
Here we have the red shirt, and then over here the blue shirt, and then gray.
Last comment on First Street, I hope I don't think of any more things, but you got, when is it Zootown, where all the kids go all the time, last year? And I'm willing to bet anybody $10 a day you start construction is the day cattle house. That's going to be another.
The workers are going to be
It's going to be very, very congested.
Okay,
Two questions. The patrols that will be going across the footbridge, would those be throughout the evening and overnight as well, just during the day?
They'll assign them various hours. I don't know if they'll have any, strict hours that is the same every day, but they'll assign them different.
That would likely help address the graffiti problems and the other things that doesn't tend to happen around Broadway. The second question was, as far as I live next to Tina, so we live pretty close to the bridge, and I'm also have a concern about the dust coming off, particularly on a windy day. Is there anything in the construction documents or in the bid documents that would give the contractors some warning to prepare and plan and budget for that to control dust?
I haven't read through them enough to know that for sure, but I can give you my number. I didn't bring the cards. I can give you my number. I can call you. I can definitely check into that. And if there's not something in there, we can look at putting something in there if it's a problem.
all right, Grace.
Yes, to the officer, thanks for the idea of motorcycles in the neighborhood. That's a great idea. Is it also possible maybe to, in front of the person talk to you, but get those through the signs until you have faster action going, that kind of thing? Put those in judicious
I
places.
think the street department is the one who puts that out. I'm not positive, but I can check on that and recommend it.
Because that has a big effect on people when you're not actually able to be there, which is the very best thing. And then I have a question about the truck route, because I'm not quite sure on the map where the trucks go. Do the trucks actually go down first as well, or is that a separate? It looks like the trucks kind of stop. They don't come on the north side at all.
Yeah, the theory is to get them to the west. I mean, anything, to go out reserve and come back through town on the south side if they need to, down Broadway.
Great, thanks. Pam?
I just want to make sure, you said you talked about alleyways, and is there a trucking company that is here that they appreciate the necessity? We realize that it's significantly out of their way, but how important it is to not go to the north side. Have they been on, they're a part of the neighborhood too, and do they truly appreciate the necessity? As well as city works, city streets has to be a city manager.
Yeah, there's one day we will have to be as a service day. The rest of the day we will look at routing our trucks. There's a number of that leave in the morning and be able to through the Northside. I just posted this too, because they had talked to Max at already, so this afternoon. This is not down south, so my question too, which restrictions and limitations of the challenge here. There's restrictions that go light. There's not a problem. Rock trucks, I think in the morning come in to the spot. Everything from the east, south side, moves up the reroute down the third.
So are there restrictions, or is it suggested that the trucks use that route?
Well, this is a detour plan that is going to be posted for truck routes.
So, but theoretically, a truck could come the way they've always come, instead of taking Scott Street, shoot down Cooley and try to get to Orange.
I think it's going to take some education, enforcement.
But is there a restriction for them to do that? I mean, I understand, ideally, we could educate every truck driver, and he wouldn't want to come through there anymore, but.
I'm not sure what you're asking by restriction. Is it enforceable? Is that, I think if it's posted, it's enforceable. We're going to define the truck route, and these plans do go out to a pretty broad, they're posted. We have traffic, we get them out to the media. Every week on projects, we post restrictions, and it will be, restricted to truck
So
traffic.
I'm understanding this, if a truck comes to the corner of Scott and Cooley there, which is right at the base of Scott Street Bridge.
Right.
If they come to that corner, can they shoot down Cooley and get to Orange Street, or is that gonna be posted as no trucks? That, say from Cooley, all the way.
There is a sign at the end of the bridge that will say, actually, there's a sign that's upside, it says bridge closed. Well, it's telling trucks to use reserve, and it will be, the sign, it's upside down actually. But, well, it's gonna, I think that there's a complementary plan to this, which is a signage plan, which if you looked at it, your head would spin with all the. All education and all signage should lead them not to head south at all, but to go north and west to reserve. Correct. Yes. And like I said, there is another, I'm working on the Higgins Hill Beckwith roundabout, and there's one of these, which is a major detour plan, but then there's also a temporary signage thing it's got just numbers all over it, and there's a whole myriad of signs, that say truck traffic and smaller things in addition to these barricades. So, and it'll be important, like I said, we sit down, we make our best attempt at it, and we think through it, but we're going to have to observe it. But enforcement is an option.
So I just, we'll take one more, and then I have something to say.
Talking about your education plan for everybody, what kind of steps or process is in your education plan? Are we talking flyers to the community? Are we talking advertisements, public service announcements? Are we just talking using the news? You keep talking about this plan, but I don't.
A combination of all three. Once the contractors, a lot of it is at some point, this thing is currently, he said, as Dean had mentioned, it's bidding June 11th. Once it's bid, a lot of these responsibilities, fall on the contractor to get out and notify some of the door-to-door stuff. As a city, we work with the media. I don't know that any PSAs or public service announcements have been planned, but, admittedly, we're a little bit behind the 8 ball in that it was originally scheduled for next summer. We've got, it's not the only stimulus package project we have, and, a lot of that is just getting out to the public like we're doing here. But it's a combination of all three things you mentioned.
So I'd like to first just thank everybody. I think it's very useful when we come and we give suggestions and ideas, and can you do this, or this is a really big problem area, so I appreciate that tonight. The second thing is that they said maybe July 1st or mid-July they would start. So what I'm committed to, and hopefully the rest of the leadership team will help me, is to get another meeting together beginning mid-August, so that people can come and help say, okay, this is what we see in the traffic, this is what needs to be tweaked, especially with school starting at the very end of August and having to shift to that at that period of time. So you will get another flyer in the mail. If you sign up on our sheet, you'll also get the email that announces it, and you can send it to anybody else that you know in the neighborhood, which is useful. Because not everybody opens their mail. So I'm committed to doing that to make sure that prior to school starting, that we all meet again. We have some more suggestions and ideas like we did tonight, because that's really helpful. They're taking notes, and I used to work with these guys, and they do work on the issues, they do implement the plans, and they try really hard to make sure, especially the safety is the highest priority. So, any other last questions before we move on? Eric?
I actually just had a question about the railing that goes on the sidewalk. over there? I'm assuming that's going to be rebuilt.
The span of the bridge, I believe the current plan is to remove it.
It's
Inside right in
no next to the sidewalk.
the handrail, I think, is coming.
And there's not going to be any right now.
That's what they're going to do.
Sorry, no, that's a poor idea because of children. It's really dangerous.
Dangerous now.
I was going to suggest running it out to the outside of the bike lane instead of the sidewalk, but if there's not going to be any.
We can look into it.
That was a discussion I know took place there was bridge engineers and planners, and I'm not sure of the reason, but it was decided to take that rail down. We could bring it back to them.
If the rail wasn't there, he would have fallen into the street, you would have gone.
What's that?
Say that again.
I said, my son wrecked his bike earlier, last month, and if the rail wasn't there, he would have rolled into the street and gotten hit.
I've personally seen two drunk drivers drive into that.
Oh, look at the rail, how beat up it is in cars.
Well, we can, I can take it back to the designer and ask them to provide it.
Hold on, everybody, if we can,
I think that part of it was that there is a bike lane and there's, but
Yeah, there was some reasons, but I'm not sure what reasons were.
we had one more question over here, Mike.
I hope you understand this is really going to be a mess on the
Everybody?
This is going to be pretty bad for everyone highly impacted in that area. And I think you probably know that right now. I appreciate your calming words, but I'm thinking that you'd better research some additional portage options for the railroad tracks. I know one gentleman said Razor Drive, possibly reopening. But I think you better look at other areas too. It's going to be pretty bad over there.
you know, I've talked to Rail Link, and it's one of the wider spots. It's a transfer yard. It just, you know, a lot of, if safety is a concern, putting them across railroad tracks. Well, one thing they do though is a lot of those rail, and a lot of what they're doing isn't one-way traffic. You know, it's going back and forth and doing transferring, and also a lot of it is done remotely where there's not engineers in there, and it's a big safety concern.
If it took somebody to man it or something. I know detours are one of the major costs in doing these projects, but it is really going to be a mess on North Fifth and Orange, the frontage road. And I don't know if you read it. I'm sure you do. You've been over there. You know it's going to be. It's very dangerous and it's going to be a mess. There's going to be a lot of incidents for experts.
Yeah.
It's just going to happen. You see the size of the traffic and the amount they're currently using Scott Street, and close that thing down. I just want you guys to, this is going to be a mess for everybody over here.
And I think that,
if it drags on like Milltown Bridge.
Yeah, please come sit at the base of Scott Street at 5 o'clock one day. It is solid traffic, it really is, coming out of the reserve.
so that, these are, somebody said we have to work on this together. We all live here. They are going to be working in this area, but they need to be able to hear those specific ideas. And yes, that north side, narrow streets, lots of parking on the streets. There's no off-street parking. Most people don't have garages or driveways, or even alley access. So you have to, increase traffic in that area is going to be very, very difficult and tight. And so it is going to be a problem. And probably at the very beginning is when you're going to see the biggest problem. So knowing that, planning for it is going to be a good idea. And then again, us all getting together to say, this is not working, we have to change this, here's an idea, those kinds of things again. Because that's what they're going to need in order to make it work. Anything else?
I would just add that I think the use of that rail is not considered to be replaced. I assume that it would be better. It is now.
Not worse.
So it's not to consider that.
If there's an update, right, that you can give me on that, so we can get an email out to these folks, that would be great.
Anyone who is walking over the Scott Street Bridge once would know there needs to be railing. I mean, it's just,
It's a lot of structure.
yeah, like that. Yeah. And I think too, Scott, one thing that, the fact that there's not going to be a railing in the plan makes me feel like it's not recognized what a neighborhood bridge that is. That is a bridge just like the Bacon Street Bridge in terms of use by neighborhood folks. And the north side is a neighborhood. So it's real important that our bridge reflect that.
Yeah, so I'd just like to hear confirmation that you are indeed going to amend the design plan to have a walking course over the bridge, and you will have bids on that by June 11th, and that you're going to be done by October 23rd. Is that true?
Not following about the amendments of the walking.
Well, we just talked.
The rail? The sidewalks are there. The question is about, what's that?
There's one
The sidewalk that's there is going to remain. It's in the bid documents. I don't know what the current, I know that, removal, if it's removed, it'll be a note that says remove and replace, and it'll, it can be handled through a change order or some sort of directive. There are ways to do it. I don't see that as impacting the completion, the start or the completion.
The leadership team will write a letter, and we'll follow up on that and make sure that we get input from you after the bid goes through, that change order went through.
That's currently there. I would think they could be putting something more substantial than that.
Well, it was clear that what was there needed to be removed. I do know that. So it was a matter of whether that was removed and repaired and replaced, or, so we can look into it.
Yeah, and I'll start tomorrow morning moving up the chain of commands.
So make sure you put your emails down, because you'll get that information from the leadership team about the rail prior to the next meeting. So if you put that down, we'll follow that for you. And it's helpful. I know everybody's like, I want a confirmation right now, but they have to go through the chain to make it work and make it get changed. And what your leadership team is here to do is to follow that, make sure they're doing that, keep bugging them, their job, and get the word out to you so that you know what's happening. If it doesn't happen, we can all come back together and try to figure out how to make it happen. So that's also an option. It's easy to do. Any last things for the gentleman?
I didn't quite hear what you said the problem with temporary
Speed bumps was for all the customers?
I know that there's only one set that we have in Missoula, and I think they're currently in use, in my understanding. I don't know whether Wayne can get it on.
It's very expensive. It's 58 months. But it's very difficult to pick up. That one's typically, I guess, 4 or 5 of those.
That in comparison to children's lives.
Well, certainly I've seen I know that I still don't have any money in my budget. It's difficult. That's a big hitter.
You certainly understand what you're saying. It could be a pile of crap.
Cowboy Village has them. And I don't think
We can
it's gonna
continue, I can carry the conversation forward on that, on either moving or whether there are any other measures. I don't know whether
May have to check.
an MDT said, he can check that. I know it's been discussed, and I don't remember a no on that one.
All right. Lastly, I just want to invite Olivia Ruta to come up. She's a resource for the neighborhood in relation to students living in the neighborhood. So Olivia has one last
I'll be fast. My name is Olivia Ryuta. I'm the director of the Off-Campus Rental Center at the university. And so my job, in addition to working with students and dealing with landlord and tenant be a liaison to neighborhoods and folks who may live next to students. And so I wanted to introduce myself. I have cards available, and to kind of, I will be here, I'm here today, and I will show up again to kind of think about ways that we can help integrate students into neighborhoods so they can be good neighbors, everybody can be good neighbors to students, and we can kind of talk about issues before they arise. So I'm here before you have any problems with students. So we start off on a good foot. So thank you all for that, and I'll be around if you have any questions.
We appreciate you coming, and we'll be in touch via email if you sign up, and a meeting in August for sure. So thanks.